This is Colin McRae. Colin McRae was a rally superstar. He won the hearts of fans around the world thanks to his all-out approach. If in doubt, flat out. McRae became the face of every rally game you could think of and catapulted it into the sport it is today. But despite this, he would lose out to his rivals time and time again and suffer many near-fatal accidents. So why do many consider him to be one of the greatest drivers to ever get behind the wheel? Just how good was Colin McRae? The year was 1995. Toy Story had broken movie theaters, the San Francisco 49ers won the Super Bowl, and MJ came back to the court. But in sleepy old Britain, the countryside silence was broken by the sounds of gravel and turbos. The British RAC Rally was a title decider in what had been an insane year for rally. Toyota got caught cheating with maybe the most innovative workaround the world of motor racing has ever seen. The champions were out, and two drivers, both wearing the blue and gold of Subaru, stepped up to the plate. The experienced Spaniard Carlos Sainz on one side, and on the other, a young Scotsman looking to become the youngest rally world champion in history. However, the odds were stacked against him. In the previous round in Catalonia, Spain, Sainz and McRae had been matching each other stage for stage, breaking away from the pack as the clear standout drivers on the season. A dream for Subaru fans, but a nightmare for team principal David Richards. Subaru at the time was a small outfit, battling some of the biggest names in rally. A win for either driver would earn them their first Constructors' Championship. Subaru set aside what the drivers wanted and pushed ahead with the main goal, to win the Constructors' Championship at all costs. To do this, they needed both Sainz and McRae to finish, so the order was given. Both drivers had to play safe and bring their cars home in point-scoring positions. Unfortunately, no plan survives contact with a Scotsman. McRae was having none of it. He only has one speed, and that is flat out. Despite team members literally waving him to slow down in the middle of the track, McRae pushed on, hell-bent on winning the race. Sainz would go on to win. McRae would be second.
So this was categoric team orders?
Yeah, that's what it was. I don't agree with it, but that's the way it is. We're fighting for the championship. Why should I have to finish second?
It would come down to the final race of the season, a win in England, and McRae would achieve his childhood dream. Colin McRae was born in Scotland. His father, Jimmy McRae, was a plumber, but also an amateur rally driver. Colin grew up watching his father fly around the rally stages of Britain, and at the age of 10, he saw his father accomplish his dream of becoming a professional driver. His dad was tearing it up on all four wheels, but Colin liked to live life a little bit more dangerously. Colin loved motocross, putting two wheels in the dirt and jumping his bike at every chance he got. Like any parent, Colin's mother thought motorcycles were too dangerous for her son, so like a true McRae, she convinced Colin to get behind the wheel of a rally car instead. Margaret, we salute you. The two McRaes, Colin and Jimmy, now spent every weekend at the rally stages. As Colin saw his father's success, he wanted some of his own. So one day, when his parents were out of town, Colin would borrow a car and enter his very first rally. He didn't win, but his performance at such a young age showed immense promise. Even his parents were too excited to be angry at Colin for sneaking around their back to do his very first race. Colin drove those early cars like he rode his motocross bikes, flat out. It wouldn't be long before Colin got the chance to drive something serious. With the help of his father, Colin got behind the wheel of a Ford Sierra Cosworth. And Colin went about it in his typical fashion, no lifting, just pedal to the metal. It was in these early years that Colin gained his now famous motto, if in doubt, flat out. This style was exciting to watch, but it made teams hesitant to sign him, the cost of broken cars outweighing his victories. None of the big boys would touch him. Luckily for Colin, a small startup from Japan was willing to take the risk. The Subaru team, backed by a little outfit called ProDrive, gave Colin his first shot at the big leagues, the 1991 British Rally Championship. Colin would approach it in his typical style, and despite some dicey moments, the Flying Scotsman would claim the win for Subaru. This was a match made in heaven, a promising new team in need of exciting drivers, and an exciting young driver in need of a chance. Finland, 1992. Colin needed to prove that he had what it took to propel Subaru into the big leagues of the WRC. He set about doing this in typical McRae fashion. Yeah, he wrecked it. Rally Finland was a tricky course to say the least. McRae was inexperienced, he needed clean races under his belt, but this is Colin, so he sent it. By some miracle, the Subaru landed on its wheels, still running with all its parts attached. McRae would pick up where he left off, rejoining the stage in a now crumpled Subaru Legacy, only to roll it into yet another patch of forest. Surely Colin and Subaru's race was over, but yet again, the indestructible Subaru landed the right side up, and Colin, who probably just kept it planted mid-roll, scrambled back onto the stage. Colin would finish 8th and win the fastest rookie driver award. Despite smashing his car to pieces and defying team orders, yeah, he did that a lot, Colin had earned his spot in the WRC. Colin would bag his first WRC win not long after. At the 1993 New Zealand Rally, a loose gravelled stage built for fast drivers, McRae would throw his Subaru around the island like a man possessed. Even with the close attention of the Ford team's Escort Cosworth, McRae's if-in-doubt flat-out style suited New Zealand to a T, giving McRae's first win in the WRC and beginning his rise to the very top. 1994 would see Colin fighting for a title. His teammate Carlos Sainz and Toyota's Didier Auriol would stand in his way. That was until the British RAC Rally home turf. McRae would fly around the stage, keeping pace with his rivals. When teammate Sainz took a spill and ended his shot at winning, McRae would step up, claiming the win. The first time a Brit had won the home rally for 18 years. This set a rivalry in motion that was set to continue in 1995. When Sainz and McRae returned to the British RAC Rally a year later, it was anyone's championship. The winner here would take home the glory. Both drivers played it safe in the opening stages, keen not to throw away the championship. But in the 8th stage, Colin was done playing it safe. It was time to go full McRae.
Everybody knows you never go full.
Colin would blow Sainz out of the water, gapping the Spaniard by over 20 seconds. Fate would make things interesting the very next day. McRae would get a puncture, losing precious time over his rival. And to top it all, his suspension would break less than 24 hours later. McRae and his co-driver had to fix it themselves with a piece of driftwood. Subaru would heal this car every day, using every minute of pit time they could to give Colin a chance. McRae was faster on literally every stage, regardless of issues. The full send, if in doubt, flat-out style was too strong for Sainz. On the final day, when Sainz was with the team preparing himself to pull off an amazing comeback, McRae was down the pub playing a game of pool with the locals. Hours before the biggest stage of his life, Colin was relaxing. He had Sainz's number, and the championship was his. Colin would fly around the final stage, claiming his long-awaited WRC title, the youngest driver to do it, a title he held until very recently. One thing that made McRae stand out from the crowd is that he wasn't alone at the very top of the WRC. Sainz and the flying Finn Tommy Mäkinen would keep McRae on his toes for many years to come. McRae's style, a stark contrast to the other drivers, drew the attention of the media.
Colin could make a car do things other people couldn't.
But he was too inconsistent to give Colin another shot at the title. Tommy Mäkinen and his Mitsubishi Evo would go on to deny McRae not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row, starting a period of dominance for the Finn that would see McRae struggle to keep pace. 1999 was perhaps the best example of McRae's style being a double-edged sword. McRae would retire from 10 races, be disqualified from another, and yet win 2. McRae would either win in spectacular fashion or crash trying. As with everything he did, Colin did crashes like nobody else. At the Corsica Rally in 2000, McRae would dance with death, heading into a fast corner with stone walls protecting the cars from the valley beside them. McRae's Ford Focus would clip a stone, flipping the car through the only gap in the stone wall, sending the car tumbling into the valley. His co-driver Nicky Grist was unharmed, but McRae was not. Trapped upside down in the car for over 40 minutes, McRae would go in and out of consciousness. He would be cut from the ruins of the Focus and airlifted to hospital. Thankfully, McRae survived the crash, and staying true to his style, he was back behind the wheel shortly afterwards. Colin would get the nickname Colin McCrash from the media, his win it or flip it attitude making him front page news. It was this media attention that brought another lasting legacy for McRae. In 1998, during the height of his battles to become a 2-time champion, McRae was approached by Codemasters, the game developers now owned by EA. Codemasters wanted to make a realistic rally game, and who better to help them than Colin McRae? He would famously refuse to help, unless he could sign off on the game's realism, ensuring it felt as true to real life as possible. Codemasters would release Colin McRae Rally later that year, featuring real drivers and cars. Alongside serious areas and car damage, the game changed the genre forever. The franchise would go on to use McRae's name for a further 9 times, switching to the Dirt name in 2011 and still continuing until 2020. No other driver has had such an impact in and out of the sport, despite never winning more than a single championship. By 2004, McRae was on the outs in the WRC, with no team willing to give him a place. Colin turned to other racing events, including the Dakar Rally and X Games, the latter featuring a signature McRae roll whilst competing against Travis Pastrana and the late great Ken Block in 2006. McRae would downshift his car mid-roll, so he was ready to set off again when his signature roll was complete. He managed to finish just half a second behind Pastrana, even after the roll, and losing one of his tyres, a classic Colin move. McRae had refound his desire for rally and was lining up a comeback for the 2008 season.
We're just getting confirmation through that Colin McRae, the former World Rally champion, has been killed in that crash. The helicopter coming down just half a mile from his home in Lanark. He was 39 years old. His son, Johnny, was also on board and is amongst the dead, we're being told.
Despite his no-fear approach to rally and his numerous crashes, Colin would lose his life alongside his son and 2 close family friends when the helicopter he was piloting came down just a short distance from his home. Colin McRae would leave an untouchable legacy in the world of rally. He touched the hearts of millions, inspired greats like Valentino Rossi to get behind the wheel, and made a generation fall in love with a sport that up until that point had struggled to get the same attention as others. Colin McRae, faults and all, will forever be remembered by those that saw him and those who raced against him.
And then Colin was the driver that really made it step up a whole nother level, because of the way that he drove, the way that he embodied the sport, the way he had fun with the car, that just spoke to me in such a different way than any other driver that I saw.
I remember playing V-Rally on the PlayStation at the age of 6. I'd choose Tommy Mäkinen in his Evo just so I could race against Colin McRae in his Subaru. Till this day, the largest jump in the Swedish rally is named after him. His name sits proudly in the Scottish Hall of Fame alongside many greats, and he still inspires drivers new and old to get behind the wheel. Check out this video on fellow Scottish legend Jim Clark, who still holds records in Formula 1 from the 1950s.